Jayo Yamunatiravanachari Jayo Kunja Vihari Jayo Yamunatiravanachari Jayo Kunja Vihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Krishna Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Everyone Hare Krishna Krishna Jayo Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Oh Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada Shila Prabhupada ki jai.
वृंद की ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की आई गौर प्रेमानंदे। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम, Canto 7, Chapter 10, Text 8. Prahlad, the best among exalted devotees. It's the chapter. Indriyani mana prana. Atma dharmo dhrutirmatihi. Rishri stejah smriti satyam. Suti satyam. Yasya nashyanti janmana. nashyanti janmana. Indriyani manah prana. Atma dharmo dhrutirmati. Hri Shri Stejah Smriti Satyam. Yasya nashyanti janmana. Indriyani manah prana. Atma dharmo dhrutirmati. Hri Shri Stejah Smriti Satyam. Stejah Smriti Satyam. Yasya nashyanti janmana. Shri Stejah Smriti Satyam. Indriyani mana prana. Atma dharmo dhrutirmati. Shri Stejah Smriti Satyam. Yasya nashyanti janmana. Oh, sorry. Indriyani mana prana. Atma dharmo dhrutirmati. Shri Stejah Smriti Satyam. Yasya nashyanti janmana. Yasya nashyanti janmana. Vaishnavis. Mana prana. Atma dharmo dhrutirmati. Hri Shri Stejah Smriti Satyam. Yasya nashyanti janmana. Atma dharmo dhrutirmati. Indriyani, the senses. Manaha, the mind. Pranaha, the life air. Atma, the body. Dharma, religion. Dhrutihi, patience. Matihi, intelligence. Hri, shyness. Shri, opulence. Tejaha, strength. Smritihi, memory. Satyam, truthfulness. Yasya, of which lusty desires. Nashyanti, are vanquished. Janmana, from the very beginning of birth. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Śrīmad Prabhupada. Translation. O my Lord, Because of lusty desires, from the very beginning of one's birth, the functions of one's senses, mind, life, body, religion, patience, intelligence, shyness, opulence, strength, memory, and truthfulness are vanquished. Purport. As stated in Śrīmad Bhāgavatam, Kamam Rudhi Samroham, Kamam Rudrogam. Kamam Rudhi Samroham comes in earlier verse here. Materialistic life means that one is afflicted by a formidable disease called lusty desire. Liberation means freedom from lusty desires, because it is only due to such desires that one must accept repeated birth and death. As long as one's lusty desires are unfulfilled, one must take birth after birth to fulfill them. Because of material desires, therefore, one performs various types of activities and receives various types of bodies with which to try to fulfill desires that are never satisfied. The only remedy is to take to devotional service, which begins when one is free from all material desires. Anya abhilashita shunyam. Anya abhilashita means material desires, and shunyam means free from. The spiritual soul has spiritual activities and spiritual desires, as described by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Mamo janmani janmanishware bhavatad bhaktirahetu kitoi. Unalloyed devotion to the service of the Lord is the only spiritual desire. To fulfill this spiritual desire, however, one must be free from all material desires. Desirelessness means freedom from material desires. This is described by Srila Rupa Goswami as Anya Abhilashita Shunyam. As soon as one has material desires, one loses his spiritual identity. And all the paraphernalia of one's life, including one's senses, body, religion, patience, and intelligence, are deviated from one's original Krishna consciousness. As soon as one has material desires, one cannot properly use the senses, intelligence, mind, and so on for the satisfaction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Mayavadi philosophers want to become impersonal, senseless, and mindless, but that is not possible. The living entity must be living, always existing with desires, ambitions, and so on. These should be purified, however, so that one can desire spiritually and be spiritually ambitious, without material contamination. In every living entity, these propensities exist because he is a living entity. When materially contaminated, however, one is put into the hands of material misery, janma mrityu jara vyadhi. If one wants to stop repeated birth and death, one must take to the devotional service of the Lord. Sarvopadhi vinirmuktam tatparatvena nirmalam. Rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchyate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, or the Supreme Personality of God is the master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designations, and simply by being employed in the service of the Lord, one's senses are purified. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanishalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami iti namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. My dear Lord, please guide us all as we dive deep into the thoughts and the heart of your pure devotee Prahlad and try to learn from his example to follow and develop similar devotion. Hare Krishna. So I'm grateful to be here with all of you today. And today we are discussing one of the most beautiful sections in the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam. This is the reciprocation between Prahlad and Narasimhadev. So before we dive into this verse, I would like to give a brief overview of the context in which this verse is happening. Now, the Śrīmad Bhāgavatam has described Prahlad's devotion over many chapters. His devotion in the face of extraordinary opposition. This narrative starts almost from chapter 4. And now we are in chapter 10. This is where this particular narrative is going to end. Now, of course, the narrative itself starts from chapter 1, but Prahlad's entry is more or less from chapter 4 onwards. And chapter 9 was where Prahlad offers prayers. Toward the end, in chapter 8, Hiranyakashipu is destroyed and delivered by Narasimhadev. And then Narasimhadev is pacified by prayers of Prahlad after no one else is able to pacify the Lord. And now, at the end of his prayers, that is chapter 9 ending, the Lord says, "You have pleased me immensely. Now you tell me, what do you desire?" And there are basically 4 interactions in terms of the conversations. See, this Prahlad Narasimha pastime is remarkable. In fact, most of the Bhagavatam, apart from the 10th canto, the Lord speaks very little. In the first canto, Krishna is there Krishna appears in the 7th chapter. And Krishna is there till the 15th chapter where he disappears. But practically speaking, there is hardly any verse where Krishna is speaking. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha is not there. It is Krishna is receiving and receiving worship and affection and reciprocating. So, of course, Krishna speaks a lot in the 10th canto in his loving pastimes. But in general, in the Bhagavatam, the focus is on the remembrance of the Lord. What the Lord did and how we remember him. The Lord's words are there. They're prominently in the Bhagavad Gita. So here, if you see, there are 4 reciprocations. The long set of prayers, there are Prahlad's prayers in the 9th chapter. And then there is a brief response by Narasimhadev. So, Narasimha's response. And then that is also in 7.9. And then here in 7.10, again there are Prahlad's prayers. And then again there's a brief response by Narasimhadev's response. And then after that, the Lord departs. The Lord it's not just Narasimhadev's response in terms of, Lord also gives him some instructions over there. And then he departs. So now we are coming toward the end of the second set of prayers. The first set of prayers were much longer. And they are often high. Many of them are very frequently quoted. Naivo duje paraduratya vaitaranyas. That verse was often, Srila Prabhupada also quoted very often. And many other verses like that. Now in the second set of verses, what exactly is going on? And sometimes if we look at the verses in isolation, we feel this is such a reciprocation of pure devotion where Prahlad has already proven without doubt that he is beyond karma. He has no selfish desire at all. Otherwise, he would not have been able to be ready to give up his life just to stay faithful to Lord Narasimhadev, whom he had not even seen till then, to Lord Vishnu. So why is he talking when he's already demonstrated such exalted pure devotion? Why is he talking about lust and the destructive effects of lust? Yasya nashyanti janmana. By all these are destroyed by yasya. That is referring to the previous verse what was described, kama. That by that kama, all these things are destroyed. So to understand this, let's try to have an overview of the verses to understand the thought flow over here. One of the benefits that we have of reading the reciprocations between the Lord is that we get a glimpse into devotional psychology. How a devotee thinks and how the Lord thinks. And then we can try to also direct our thoughts in a similar direction. It's not easy, but we can try at least. So let's see what Prahlad is saying in his prayers. So his prayers begin here from 2 and they go till 10. It's interesting, the last verse is just a glorification. It's more like offering obeisances. So let's look at what's happening over here in terms of the prayers. So I'll just explain the prayers quickly and then we'll write something down. So the first verse he says is Shri Prahlad uvaja mamam pralobhayotpatya saktam kameshu tairvare tadbhitah tatsangbhito nirvinno mumukshustvam upashritaha. So in the first prayer he's saying, don't tempt me, O Lord. It's very interesting. Normally we would say to Maya, don't tempt me. But he's saying, don't tempt me, O Lord. Mamam pralobhayotpatya. So that's the first prayer. And each of these I'll try to explain in a way that we can see the thought flow. We're trying to understand the devotional psychology over here. So don't tempt me. Tadbhita sanga nirvinno. He says that, my dear Lord, it is because I'm afraid of material desires and material entanglement that I came to you. Now, if you tempt me with material desires, where will I go? He said, Tatsanga bhita nirvinno. I'm afraid of bhita. I was afraid of material desires, that's why I came to you. Mumukshus tvam upashritaha. I took shelter of you because I wanted to be free from material desires. Let's see if it works this way. So he is saying that, let's go this way. First is, the second verse, don't tempt me. Because I came for protection. I came to you for protection from material desires. Then he goes on and says that, okay, why do you need protection? So he says, Pratyalakshana jigyasur. This is one of the few verses where actually Prahlad talks about his mission in the world. He says, my dear Lord, you have sent me to this world. Pratyalakshana jigyasur. Jigyasu is those who are eager if they want to know what are the characteristics of your pure servant. You have sent me here to demonstrate the characteristics of a pure devotee. So he is emphasizing here that so thank you. Pratyalakshana. Thank you. So now, but then he says, Bhavan samsara bija. He says, while you have sent me for a particular mission over here, but just coming to this material world and acquiring a material body means that one becomes vulnerable to material desires. So we may do a particular service, say we go for book distribution. Our purpose may be pure. I just want to share Krishna's message. But if we go in a materialistic setting, we go where people are partying, people are having fun, and we certain so-called fun, we see those things, we may get tempted. So Ajamil had gone for service to get firewood, but he saw something and he got tempted. So he says here that, my dear Lord, why should you not tempt me? The first verse, don't tempt me, I have come to you for protection. He says, because you have sent me on a mission, but while on the mission, I am vulnerable. So both things he says. I am on a mission. I am on a mission sent by you, and I am vulnerable. So while our service does protect us, but that does not mean that we can afford to neglect our common sense. That we have to be aware of our triggers, our dangers, and protect ourselves. So he's saying, please don't tempt me because I won't be able to do the service that you want me to do. That is to demonstrate the characteristics of pure devotee. Then after that he says, but then actually you cannot tempt anyone. He says, that you are actually you are Nanyathate Akhila Guru. You are the spiritual master of everyone. So you cannot tempt anyone. Gateta Karunatmanaha. You are very compassionate. Because you are compassionate, you cannot actually tempt anyone. However, Yasya Ashish Ashaste. Nasa Bhrityaha Savaivanik. So now he is going deeper. This is where the heart of this whole section comes in. He's talking about, Bhritya Lakshana Jigyasur. The key words in this whole series is that, demonstrating the characteristics of a pure devotee. Bhritya Lakshana Jigyasur. Those who want to know, they should demonstrate that. So he's saying that, now he starts by saying that, you will never tempt anyone. You will never distract anyone. But on the other hand, someone who gets tempted, someone who comes to you for such desires is actually not a pure servant. That person is not a servitor. That person is a trader. So that's the next verse where he speaks that the person who comes to you, actually you don't tempt. You don't cause fall of anyone. You don't cause the fall of anyone. But, so we could put it at those who seek material desires, those who seek material pleasure from you, whatever it may be, they are not servitors. They are traders. Vanik. And then at this point, the question may come that there are so many people who actually go to God for this purpose only. Isn't it? Prabhupada said that when we come in front of the deities, how do we know whether we are Krishna conscious? So one of the times he said, if you come in front of the deities and you feel Krishna is asking you, what are you doing for me? If you feel Krishna asking this question to you, then you are Krishna conscious. Most people, when they come into the temple, they go in front of the deities and ask, what are you doing for me? I have this problem and I have that problem and I have been praying so much and I have done this puja and I have done that vrata and I have given this much charity. What are you doing for me? So, that is the common question that most people have from God. But, what he says in the next verse is, but this goes on. Isn't it? Millions of people come to God for this purpose only. And they seem to get their desires fulfilled also, sometimes. And people don't go to gods, people go to others also. There are people who go to demigods. And it's interesting, in the section on demigod worship, in the section on demigod worship, when Krishna, in 7:20 to 23, he talks about the worship of the devatas. There first he starts as Anya Devata. Kamaistaister Ritagyana Prapadyante Anya Devata. So let's keep it this way only. So in 20, he talks about Anya Devata. But in 21, he expands the scope further. And it says, Yo yam yam tanum bhakta shraddhaya architum ichchati. Whatever form someone worships. So, whatever form, yo yam yam tanum. Tanum is form. Whatever form someone worships, Krishna says, I give them faith in that. So, the whatever form is a very inclusive thing. There can be the devatas, there are demigods, and then there are semi-gods. What are semi-gods? Say me God. That I am God. They worship me as if I am God. So there are people like that also. And those people go to them and worship them. And it seems that why would they keep worshipping unless they get something out of it? So here now, Prahlad contrasts a pure relationship, pure master-servant relationship with an impure relationship. And in the first, so we are going over the verse now. Here, if we go back. Okay, this has become too crowded. We have come till text 4. So let's continue with text 5 from here onwards. Or better do it like this. So let's look at what verse text 5 is saying. 5 and 6 are the... So he talks first about the impure relationship, and then he talks about the pure relationship. So, Asha Sano Nasavai Bhritya. That Asha Sano, if somebody is seeking fulfillment of desires, Navai Bhritya, such a person is actually not a true servant. Swaminyashish Atmanaha. On the other hand, if a master, Na Swami Bhritya Swamya, Ichhanyo Rati Chashishaha. So he says that Na Swaminya. On the other hand, if the master is very insecure, that if I don't fulfill this person's desires, this person will go away. Then that person, that master is also not an authentic master. That master, now here, right in the first canto, Prabhupada makes it very clear that when the words master and servant are used, now he says this is not like a material relationship. Prabhupada says this is the most congenial form of intimacy, the master-servant relationship. So, the word servant often jars people. But the point is, that's not because being a servant is a problem. The problem is that being a servant in the material world, the experience that we have is quite negative. When there is a pure master-servant relationship, the master is actually a great well-wisher of the servant. And the master wants the best for the servant. So, we could compare this to a doctor-patient relationship. Now, patient is really sick. And the doctor gives some prescription by which the patient will be healed. But that prescription has certain demands. Okay, don't eat this food. You have to do this kind of exercise. Now, sometimes if the treatment is a bit demanding, and the patient may say, I don't want to do this. I want to go somewhere else. Then if the doctor is very insecure, the doctor thinks, okay, if my patients go away, then what will happen to me? And because of that, the doctor starts diluting the treatment. Now, the doctor may dilute the treatment, the patient may stay with the doctor, but the purpose of that relationship is not being served, isn't it? The patient is not being cured. So, the point here is, first, in this fifth verse, if we go over here, he talks about this impure relationship. Impure relationship, in this what happens? The servant has often self-defeating or self-destructive desires that are harmful to oneself. And the master is insecure. And he's saying thereafter, my dear Lord, I don't want to be such a servant. And I know that you are not such a master. That's the next verse. So then he's talking about the pure relationship. This is what his aspiration is. So, aham tu akamas tvad bhaktas tvam cha swami anapashrayah. Aham akamas tvam bhaktas. I do not want to be a devotee with worldly desires. And tvam cha swami anapashrayah. You are a master. There are some people who have a need to be needed. They have a need to be needed. If they are at a place and nobody comes to talk with them, so what am I doing at this place also? They feel as if nobody is approaching them, then they have become valueless. So actually, they are in one sense taking shelter of those who are taking shelter of them. They are taking shelter of those who are taking shelter of them. Now, as psychologically, we all have different needs. But the point is, if a person has a need to be needed, then often that need can also be exploited. Anapashrayah, you do not need any other shelter. We generally talk about wants and needs. Needs are something that we can't live without. Wants are something extra. So from our perspective, we want to move from wants to needs. We want to live according to our needs. On the other hand, from Krishna's perspective, Krishna does not need us, he wants us. Krishna does not need us. Krishna is fully happy. Krishna is Swarat. Krishna is Atmaram. Krishna is Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam. Krishna doesn't need us, but Krishna wants us. Krishna is full in himself, and he wants us so that we all can relish the fullness of his existence. So we don't want Krishna, but we need Krishna. Often we don't feel there are any strong desires for Krishna, but without Krishna we can't exist. So this is this Krishna and us, if we consider, he doesn't need us, but he wants us. So his wanting us is actually a sign of his love. On the other hand, if we consider we and Krishna, we actually need Krishna, but we don't want him. Sorry, the other way. Why do we need Krishna? Because without him we can't exist in the material world. Whatever we need for existence is dependent on him. That's what the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, Jnana Chakshu section says. How our entire existence is dependent on him. Yadadittigatam tejo. Without the sun we can't exist. Krishna is the light of the sun. He says, Aham Vaishvanaro Bhutva Praninam Deham Ashrita. He says that I am the digestive fire. Now, without the digestion of food, we would have no energy. The only time, however, we think of our digestion is when it doesn't work. But the point is that while we need Krishna, we don't want him. So in bhakti, first we want to come to the level of recognizing that we need Krishna. That I am dependent on Krishna. But beyond that, we want to go to the level of wanting Krishna. Tatra laulyam api maulyam ekalam. We want to want Krishna. So, Swamcha Swami anapashirayaha. He says, you have no need to need, you don't need us. So here it is, what is being said over here is, as far as in the pure relationship, the servant has no other desires except to serve. And the master has anapashiraya, has no need to be needed. The master doesn't need any shelter. The master is completely shelterless. And this is the relationship, he says, I want with you, Lord. That nanyatha, or apart from that, I don't want anything. Raja sevakayoriva. And he gives an example of the king and a servant. And then in the previous verse, which came before this, he says that, okay, so if we look at the series of verses, that please don't tempt me. Actually, you have sent me on a mission, but I am vulnerable. And you can never tempt. But everybody who comes to the material world has desires. And you also reciprocate with such people. But you are not an insecure master. And I don't want to be an impure servant. You are the secure master and I want to be a pure servant. And to be able to demonstrate that, you have sent me on a mission to demonstrate this pure master-servant relationship. And to be able to demonstrate that, I need a benediction from you. And what is that? What is the benediction? What is the desire that I have? The desire that I have is that I have no desires. That I be free from all material desires. So this was the previous verse. Yadidasyasi me kaman varam stvam varadharshabha kamanam hridiyam samroham bhavatastu vrune varam. You, O Lord, if you want to give me any benediction at all, yadidasyasi, to this servant, me kaman. So he says, Varam stvam varadarshapha. So he uses the word vara 3 times over here. Varams, varadarshapha and vrune varam. So thrice that word comes. So normally when people think of vara for blessings, they think, okay, I want power, I want wealth, I want this, I want that. I was in Varanasi a few times ago, and there was, we were going to the Kashi Vishwanath temple, we saw Hanuman temple over there. And there, right on the temple, it was written, when you enter the temple, Tum to ho bala brahmachari, mujhe de do ek nari. You are a lifelong celebrant, please bless me with a woman. So, the idea is that material desires are so common. That's the idea of vara. Whenever blessings are asked for, we generally ask for material blessings. But he says, Kamanam hridi asamroham. I want to be free from all desires, all material desires. Kamanam refers here to material desires. Bhavatastu vranevaram. If at all you want to give me the benediction, this is what you should give me. This is what I aspire from. And then after making this prayer, see, in general, whenever we desire something, this is just normal psychology also, that if we make a resolution, say in New Year we make a resolution, in Kartik we devotees do some vrata. So now to stick to that vrata, what is required is we need to be able to have the starkest picture, the clearest picture, as clear as possible, of what will happen if I stick to this vrata and what will happen if I don't stick to this. Say, for example, somebody wants to give up a bad habit. Now, if they want to give up the bad habit, the clearer the picture of where this bad habit is going to land me in future, the clearer the picture that we have, oh, I don't want to go there. And the clearer the picture of where we can reach if we become free from that habit. That is what will inspire us. So it's like, generally speaking in life, say if we come to a crossroad, the two roads may not seem to be much divergent. One step doesn't make any difference. But, maybe 1,000 steps down the line, there is a huge difference. So, when we make resolutions, if we can have this long-term picture, so if this is the positive behavior, this is the negative behavior, and this is the result. So, the clearer the picture of the result that we have, the stronger will be our resolution. Yeah, I want to go in this direction, I don't want to go in that direction. Otherwise, we may think, okay, one little indulgence, one thing, what difference does it make? One little laxity, what difference does it make? So Prahlad in these two verses is actually drawing this contrast. So the verse that we recited today, he is talking about the negative result, where karma can land a person. That is, yasya nashyanti janmana, that a person's entire life can be destroyed. Every single faculty of the person can be captivated by selfish desires. And once that is captivated, that person will be destroyed. The whole life will be destroyed. Aghayur indriyaramo. The mogham partha sajivati. In 316 the Bhagavad Gita says, mogham, the whole life can get wasted. So the 8th verse is talking about the complete negative extreme that a person might get to. And the 9th verse talks about the positive extreme. That is going to come tomorrow. Vimuchyati yada kaman. So exactly the opposite. If there is kama, a person will go down this way. If there is no kama, vimuchyati yada kaman manavo manasi sthitan. So manasi sthitan, the kama that is there in the heart, if one becomes free from that, what will happen? So, Pundarikaksha. I'm not going to go over the whole verse because we don't have the time this. Bhagavatvaya kalpate. That he will attain your divine nature. He will attain opulence like yours. He will attain essentially your abode. Sometimes when we look at the Sanskrit and we look at the English, again the next verse also might seem a little odd. Why would Prahlad want opulence like gods? Isn't it? That But the point is that when he's saying opulence like Bhagavatvaya kalpate, what it essentially means is he will attain proximity with the Lord. He will attain liberation. He will be eternally united with the Lord. Mad bhavam agataha. For example, in 4.10 in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, and those who become purified, they attain my nature. Bhagavatvaya kalpate. So, in that sense, the 8th verse is talking about the negative result, and the 9th verse is talking about the positive result. And he is himself drawing out a contrast. When we make a request that okay, why do I want something? So the more earnest our request is, the more likely somebody who is granting the request is likely to give it. So nowadays all this spiritual content is so easily available for us. There is YouTube, there is podcasts. We can very easily hear. But when I was introduced to Bhakti about 25 years ago, we used to have those big cassettes, and we used to have like a tape recorder on which would play the cassette to hear. So I told one senior devotee, that you have these recordings of my spiritual master. Can you give me those recordings? He says, why do you want them? He said, I told him, I have vacation now and I have some time to hear. He said, I won't give you. I said, why? He said, you should have said, without hearing the words of my spiritual master, my life will go waste. You please help me to ensure that my life doesn't get wasted. So if you had said that, I would have given you. Of course, he was joking. He gave it to me, but he said it was a memorable example for me that how we need to have an earnest desire, and if we express the desire in a very earnest way, naturally the Lord will grant it to us. So we may sometimes come and, Krishna, please help me remember you. And after 2 minutes, I forgot. I don't even remember that I asked Krishna to help me to remember you. So, if a prayer is very casual, then why should Krishna fulfill it? Krishna can fulfill any prayer, but Krishna wants to see how earnest we are in our prayers. So, Krishna, please help me to remember you day after day. Week after week, month after month is just going on without I being able to remember you. I am remembering so many frivolous things. I am wasting my life. If you don't bless me, Krishna, I will not be able to remember you. Please, let me remember you. Only then I can reciprocate with my spiritual master, with Srila Prabhupada, and offer my heart to them and offer my life in service to them. Please, let me remember you. So when the prayer is more heartfelt, then the Lord reciprocates. Yethamam prapadyante tam sathaiva bhajamyaham. So again, going back to the Bhritya Lakshana Jigyasu, that there's characteristics of a pure devotee. A pure devotee is characterized by not just a pure desire for Krishna. It is also characterized by a very strong desire for Krishna. Without a strong desire, Prabhupada couldn't have left India all alone at the age of 70 to come to America and try to share bhakti. So in fact, his desire was so strong that it overcame all obstacles. No, that is the kind of desire that we aspire for. So, and we all have the power to desire like that. But unfortunately, our desires are dissipated. They're distributed. I desire this also, I desire that also, I desire that also, I desire that also. And then in that process, Krishna just becomes one among 1,011 desires. Is there somewhere. But that is not very effective. Bahushakha yanantascha buddhayo avyavasainam. The last verse that Prahlad speaks, he concludes by saying that it is offering obeisances. He says, when he's offering obeisances, he's basically acknowledging to this verse, acknowledging the Lord's omnipotence. The Lord, you can give whatever you want. Om Namo Bhagavate Tubhyam Purushaya Mahatmane. Mahatmane, you are the great being. So, Haraye Adbhuta Simhaya Brahmane Paramatmane. So basically, various conceptions of divinity that might be there. Brahman, Paramatma, Mahatma, Purusha. These are all in Sankhya and Advaita Vedanta. In Vedanta, there are various conceptions. He's, in one sense, integrating all those conceptions over here. And he's saying, you are the omnipotent Lord. You are capable of giving benedictions. And I just offer my obeisances to you. So in this way, he is demonstrating the characteristics of a pure devotee for all of us to learn. That a pure devotee is transcendental, but the transcendental doesn't mean that the pure devotee is not aware that this world is a dangerous place. He's aware, the pure devotee is aware, and the pure devotee is cautious, is alert, is cautious. So that's why Prahlad starts by saying, don't tempt me, O Lord. And then he shows us the heart of a pure devotee by aspiring for purity with great fervency. And then he ends with an expression of submission and surrender. You are the Supreme Lord, and I have faith in your supremacy. I offer my obeisances to you. So the prayer about karma and its destructive power is not so much that Prahlad thinks this is all going to happen to him, but he is aware that this is the downward spiral that karma can take us down. And that's why he doesn't want to even take one step in that direction. He wants to be extremely cautious, and he's saying, my dear Lord, please purify me. Please free me from worldly desires. So I'll summarize what we discussed today. I started by the overview of the reciprocations. So the whole pastime is Prahlad demonstrating pure devotion. And then there are 4 reciprocations between Prahlad and Narasimhadev. First Prahlad offers prayer, then Narasimhadev reciprocates, then Prahlad offers prayers again, and then Narasimhadev reciprocates. So we are in this second set of prayers offered by Prahlad. And we did an overview of those prayers, that how in these prayers, what is Prahlad doing? He is actually saying that don't tempt, because we are all vulnerable. Although he has come on a pure mission, but just being in the material world means we are vulnerable. So to stay on mission, what does he do? He uses contrast. He contrasts between an impure master-servant relationship and a pure master-servant relationship. And then he seeks purity. He seeks purity of the heart. And to bolster that prayer, again he does a contrast. He says, impurity and its results, he says, and then purity and its results. And then he concludes by offering obeisances at the end. So the idea is that Prahlad is essentially Vrittilakshana Jigyasu, demonstrating the characteristics of pure devotion to all of us. And by this, he has demonstrated the characteristics throughout his life also. He is demonstrating it through his prayers. And we can get a glimpse into that, and we can get similar inspiration to try to also aspire for pure devotion. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Yes.
Well, you were quoting from, I think, the second chapter of the first canto, Prabhupada's purport there, where he mentions the most congenial form of intimacy.
Yes.
And verse 6 in this chapter is giving some insight to that, the relationship or the natural relationship of a servant to the master and vice versa. And congenial I can easily understand, it's very pleasing. But the concept of intimacy in a servant-master relationship is a little bit hard for me to grasp. I wonder if you could shed some light on that.
Yeah, thank you. So, and Prabhupada uses this word congenial form of intimacy. So, congenial we can say is affectionate, but then how is that relationship exactly intimate? Well, if we want to look at intimacy, the example say could be Hanuman and Ram. Now, Hanuman understands the heart of Ram. Ram understands the heart of Hanuman. Although this clearly it's a vertical relationship, in the sense that Ram is the master and Hanuman is the servant. But we do see that there is a very deep affection, very, very deep mutual understanding of each other. So, according to the South Indian retelling of the Ramayana, according to that, they say that normally when Hanuman comes back, so Ram is able to know what happened. So normally we say Sita has been found. But in a poetic way, when they render it, it says, found is Sita. Why? Because found is the most important word over there. So he starts with that. He knows Ram is in such anxiety that he wants to share that. And then the Sri Vaishnava Acharya described that after that whole thing that happens, Lord Ram is so happy. And he says, I want to reward you. You've done such service. But now I'm in exile. I have nothing to offer you now. So he says, I have nothing except an embrace. And Hanuman is thinking, this form is the form which is the shelter of the goddess of fortune. This form is the supreme opulence. And the Lord is offering me an embrace. The Lord is offering me Himself. The Lord is offering me the highest blessing that can be offered. So the Lord is thinking, I have nothing to give. And Hanuman is thinking, you have given me everything. You are giving me the ultimate thing. The normal master-servant relationships, I am giving you so much. The master is thinking. The servant is thinking, you are giving me so little. So, that if we consider intimacy in terms of the understanding of the heart. So there is, intimacy is basically the master and the servant, they understand each other very well. So when two people have a very good understanding, then even without speaking much words, a lot is communicated. So just the gestures of the face, to the movements of the eyes. And in that sense, the master-servant relationship is very intimate. So, and Raktak and Patrak, for example, are fanning Krishna. At that time, they are fanning Krishna and they're beholding the beauty of Krishna. And they feel delighted on seeing the beauty of Krishna. But at the same time, they feel that, as tears of ecstasy are coming down their eyes as they're beholding Krishna, they start feeling that, we will not be able to see clearly where Krishna is getting some sweat. And we will not be able to fan him properly. So they say, I don't want this ecstasy. Let these tears go away so that I can see clearly and I can fan Krishna better. So that is again a form of intimacy, that actually the devotee is concerned so much about Krishna's comfort that a devotee doesn't even want ecstasy. So there's that heart-to-heart bond. So a deep mutual understanding is what is the characteristic of intimacy in this sense. So the vertical, hierarchical aspect of the relationship may still be there, but that doesn't prevent it from there being a very implicit understanding of each other's heart. That's what Prabhupada also talks about, a first-class servant. The first-class servant not only understands the instruction, but also understands the intention behind the instruction. And is therefore able to fulfill that underlying purpose also. Does it answer the question, Prabhu? Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Prabhu.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for the wonderful class, Prabhu. So we were talking about austerities. So we see that we sometimes take physical austerities like avoiding some kind of sweets or something during this month, and subtle austerities are there. Which of these two are more important? Because from a point of seeing where they actually lead up to the results, the physical austerities we may be able to tangibly say this is where it leads to, but coming to a subtle austerity we may not be able to measure to an extent. Maybe we don't have that kind of a knowledge. So how do we, which of these austerities is on a higher platform?
Well, see, there is, rather than thinking of what is on a higher platform, it's more important thinking more important question is what will take me higher.
Yes.
So what will take me higher? Because from where we are, we can try to perform the highest of austerity, but if it is impractical for us, or if it is not so relevant for us, then it may not help us much. So we can look at our particular situation, and what do I need the most for my growth in bhakti? We evaluate that, and based on that we take some resolutions. And in general, affirmative resolutions are more important than regulative resolutions. What I am going to do is more important than what I am not going to do. So it could be that I recite a certain set of prayers every day, I chant some extra rounds, I read Bhagavatam, I hear class. Yes, giving up certain things is also good, no doubt. But the important thing is, now if you consider subtle and gross austerities, the very point of them being subtle means that you cannot get a gross visualization of them. So then, when I was talking here, the point is that when do we have a strong desire, strong motivation? I'm using motivation not in the sense of motivated devotional service, motivation in the sense of the self-help sense of motivation, that we have the power, the inspiration, the dedication to do something. So when we have, that's what we need to have. Now, if for something subtle, we want to have that, that's also fine. If we already have that, maybe we have heard some classes, and because of that we want to give up something subtle. And if we are inspired for that, that's good enough. So I'm using the word motivation in the sense of inspiration. So if we have the inspiration to stick to a resolution which we think is important for us, then go. Whether it is subtle or gross doesn't matter. But here I was talking more about, if we want to get the inspiration, then in general trying to think of the consequences this way and that way. That's helpful. Okay.
Sure. Thank you, Prabhu. Just one more question, Prabhu, if you don't mind.
I can just come back to you. Anybody else has any questions? Can we come back to you? Yeah, okay. Mataji, yes, please. You have another mic here, or we'll come back to you then. Yeah. I said we'll come back to you. Okay, we will come back to you, right? I think my words and my gestures were not synchronized. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you for the wonderful class. Prabhu, you mentioned how Prahlad Maharaj prays that to Narasimhadev, please don't tempt me for these material benedictions. But Prabhu, we're always encouraged to take these material benedictions and use them in the service of Lord Krishna. So how do we understand this?
Okay, good question. See, on one side is that a devotee desires to serve the Lord, and if we love the Lord, we want to offer the best to the Lord. And while we are in the material world, we would like to offer the best material things to the Lord. If a devotee wants to build a temple for the Lord, devotee would want the best possible temple. So we would like to, if we are cooking something for Krishna, we would like to cook the best possible things for Krishna. So in that sense, if we consider, say, a devotee is here in the material world, and Krishna is above here. So now, in one sense, we want to offer our heart to Krishna. But we also want to offer things from this world to Krishna. So a devotee doesn't want desires that end with the object. That I want this object for myself. So what is the test that we are not wanting the objects for ourselves? That is that two things. That my desire for that object is not more than my desire for Krishna. Say, if I desire to, say, somebody desires to build a big temple for Krishna, or somebody desires to distribute a lot of books for Krishna, that's wonderful. But if we are coming in front of Krishna, and instead of beholding the beautiful form of Krishna, we are thinking, okay, how many books will I be able to distribute today? Then what is happening is that desire is not increasing our remembrance of Krishna. Now we may pray to Krishna, Krishna, please bless me so that I can distribute a lot of books. That's a different thing. But are we remembering Krishna more, or are we remembering, oh, if I distribute so many books, then people will glorify me so much? What are we remembering? The point is, even our desire to serve Krishna, in the overall sense, should increase our remembrance of Krishna. And secondly, if that desire is not fulfilled, if somehow that doesn't work out, then do we still remember Krishna or not? So in one sense, if this works out, that is great, but this desire should not become stronger, and if that desire should not become the condition for serving Krishna. And that's what we see in Prabhupada's life. It was 40 years. He was trying to do so much outreach, but it didn't work. Prabhupada's spirit didn't decrease. Prabhupada was still enthusiastic to serve Krishna. So for us, yes, if we get material objects and we can use them in Krishna's service, that's wonderful. But when Prahlad is speaking over here, he is saying that, my dear Lord, these objects, they have the capacity to take me away from you. So please don't tempt me that way. Now, if we are to take those words literally, then we could say that actually Prahlad said, don't tempt me, and Lord Narasimhadev made Prahlad the king. So the Lord actually tempted Prahlad. Isn't it? No, the Lord. So the point was, let these objects not take me away from you. Now, Prabhupada once told his disciples, his leaders, he says, Krishna can give you the whole world in 18 days. But are you pure enough to take it? So that means that, if we get that much power and influence and everything, will we be able to stay pure? So, yes, if benedictions come, we can accept them. But we need to be cautious that they can take us away from Krishna. So we also need to have a stronger desire for Krishna. Okay?
Thank you, Prabhu.
Nice question. Yes.
Prabhuji, you were mentioning that the more heartfelt our prayers are, more reciprocation we get from the Lord. But sometimes we see as devotees, we know the right words to pray because we've heard we've read so many books, or we've heard the philosophy. So sometimes even the right words become mechanical in terms of our offering. So we know oh, I'm the servant of the servant. We know the right words, or we know the right words, Lord, give me pure devotional service. So we know the right words, but sometimes they also then tend to become mechanical over time. So how do we still keep that essence and that mood of giving deep and heartful prayers with these right words as well?
Yeah, it's difficult. 2-3 things. One is change the words. That's why while it's important to offer the prayers of the Acharyas, prayers from scripture, it's also important to offer prayers in our own words. The whole point of realizing Prabhupada said is, it means to speak in your own words. See, our words bring a part of ourselves into whatever we are speaking. Generally, everybody has their voice. Of course, we have a verbal voice. And if you are hearing audio recording, if you just hear the person's voice, you can say, oh, this is this person speaking. But like that, we also have a written voice. Especially those who are writers. They can immediately make out, this is writing of this person. So as a writer, if somebody gives me text, immediately I can make out, this is ChatGPT. So, the ChatGPT has only one voice in one sense. So, a part of us gets invested into our own words. So, it's important to also offer prayers in our own words. We can offer the traditional prayers, but along with that, offer prayers in our own words. So, change the words means we can't change the words of scriptural prayers, of the Acharya's prayers, but our own words, we can try to articulate in different ways. Just as when we are, say, if we are to give a class or we are to share the spiritual message, formally, informally, then we try to phrase the same truths in new ways. Isn't it? Like Prabhupada said, old wine in a new bottle. So that principle is not just for attracting new people, it's also for attracting our own heart, activating the emotions of our own heart. So the same prayer or similar prayer we can try to phrase in new words. Another thing we can try to do is that we take some time to introspect about whatever we are praying for, why is it that important for us? See, basically, when we talk about the way to the heart is in twos. It's through emotion and through reason. Emotion is a faster way, but emotion is fickle. It can come and go. Krishna says, Mai arpita mano buddhir. Why mana and buddhi? Because mana and buddhi are both ways to the hruday, to the heart. So now, if our emotions are involved in the process, that's great. But at present, our emotions are very much influenced by our mind, and that's why they tend to be fickle. So buddhi is where we use our reason. Now, reason may not lead to a lot of emotion itself. But sometimes with our reason, we can understand the gravity of something. And then when something is heartfelt, that doesn't just mean it has to be emotional. Yeah, emotion is involved, but we just understand this is important, this is consequential. So, like sometimes if somebody is very grave about some issue, in one sense gravity is also an emotion, but when a person is grave, they are not overwhelmed by emotion. But we understand that this person is really serious, something serious has happened over here. So, so we can have emotions coming by new words, but we can also have the gravity coming, the gravitas being infused by using our reason. And that can also bring depth to our prayers. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yes, there was a question here. Maybe we'll stop by 9:15, yeah.
It was along the lines of the same questions which Sivya asked was, how, we might come, we say people come in front of the devotees and say, in front of the deities and say, what are you doing for me? But as devotees, we might come and say, Krishna, if you so desire, can you help me with this service or help me with that? So how's that different?
That's fair enough. So it's not that, see, love does involve reciprocation. Reciprocation means we do something for Krishna and Krishna does something for us. That's how love is. But the problem is not with the reciprocation. The problem is with the purpose of reciprocation. See, reciprocation, when we talk about this, reciprocation can simply be transactional. It's like Vanik, a trader. Now I give you this and you give me that, and that's all over. Or reciprocation can be transformational. That means in we offering something to Krishna and Krishna offering something to us, it is we who get transformed and we come closer to Krishna. So reciprocation is natural. Without reciprocation, there's no relationship. But we want to also be transformed. So we pray to Krishna, yes, Krishna, I'm in this trouble right now. If, say, my health is terrible, if my health improves, I'll be able to do so much service more. And I want to do this for you. Please, if you so desire, please improve my health. If you're praying that is not outside the domain of devotion. In fact, rejecting a prayer like that is as mundane. Is actually Falgu Vairagya. It's false renunciation. What can be used in Krishna's service, if you don't use it, then that's false renunciation. So there's nothing wrong in the prayer. The problem is when we make the relationship conditional to the fulfillment of the prayer. That means if Krishna doesn't fulfill my prayer, what is the use of praying to him also? Or what is the use of even serving him? If that is not happening, then that's perfectly fine. A devotee naturally has desires to serve Krishna, and we need resources for serving Krishna. So if a devotee prays to Krishna for resources, that's not in itself wrong. But let's not make the relationship conditional to the fulfillment of the resources. Okay? So, thank you very much. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhāgavatam ki, Srila Prabhupada ki, Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki, Thai Gaur Premanande.